Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about writing equations of lines. It's your second video day, one more day of this and then I'll be back. Today is 3:10:16. So as I said, we're going to talk about writing equations of lines, both parallel and perpendicular to a given line, passing through a particular point. And we're going to do this by using the point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now this is a formula that you have to memorize. It's not given to you on a reference sheet. It's not going to be written on the test anywhere. You do have to memorize it. And you'll notice that there's a bunch of x's, a bunch of y's, and then this little m. M, as we talked about last class, means slope. And x1, y1 is a given point. So we're going to just practice writing a basic equation given a point passing through that particular point, and then a slope. So we start by the basic form y minus blank equals something, parentheses, x, a lot of blanks here. And we're going to fill them in. It says that we have this point 5 and 8. So this now becomes x1, y1, and a slope of 3. That means m equals 3. So we have y minus y1, meaning y minus 8, equals slope m, or 3, times x minus x1, 5. So notice here that, like we talked about with circles, the value gets changed when it gets plugged into the equation. It's no longer positive, it now becomes negative. Or if it's negative, it becomes positive. So now our next task is to write it in y equals mx plus b form, meaning we have to do a little bit of work. So we're going to start by distributing the 3. So now we have y minus 8 equals 3x minus 15. Then again, getting it in y equals, get this y by itself. So add 8. So now we have y equals 3x minus 7. So now we have two final answers, one in point slope form and the other one in y equals mx plus b form. Now we're going to practice writing an equation that's parallel to a given line. So we've got this equation. We need to write an equation that passes through the point 6, negative 5. So we're going to write x1, y1, and is parallel. Circle it and write yourself a note. Remember, parallel lines have same slope. Parallel to the line whose equation is 2x minus 3y equals 11. Now in order to write our new equation, we need to know the slope of this equation, because remember, we want the same slope. So your first step is to get it in y equals. I'm going to do that up here on the board while you guys work on it on your own paper. Remember, we did this a lot yesterday, so you should be pretty practiced with it. Alright, so I found y equals 2/3 x minus 11/3. Remember, we care about the slope here, so our slope m is 2/3 because we need it to be parallel. So now we're going to plug into that y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we have y minus our y1 value, y minus negative 5 equals slope 2/3 times x minus x1, or 6. Now you'll notice that we have this nasty double negative there. Double negative, as you know, turns to positive. So we do have to rewrite it as y plus 5 equals 2/3 times x minus 6. We're going to box this in as part of our final answer. On a Common Core test or on any test, you can leave your answer like this. However, if it says to write the equation in y equals mx plus b, then you have to do that extra work. So that work, remember, comes in by starting with the distribution of 2/3. So we have y plus 5 equals 2/3 x. Now I want you to take your calculator and type in 2/3 times negative 6. 2/3 times negative 6. You should get negative 4. Then we have to get y by itself by subtracting 5. So our final answer here is y equals 2/3 x. Negative 4 take away 5 more is negative 9. All right, let's flip it over to the next page when you got it. Now that we just did a line that's parallel through a given point, we're going to talk about perpendicular through a given point. So we have this point 3,5, so we're going to again label with x1, y1. And it's perpendicular, circle that, write yourself a note. Is it the same slope, or do we have to think about opposite reciprocals? Hopefully you're screaming opposite reciprocals. I don't really expect you to scream. I'm just saying maybe in your brain you're screaming. All right, so now we've got y plus 8 equals 2x. Remember, just like the last one, we have to get it in y equals. This one's a nice easy one. Just move that 8 to the other side. So we have y equals 2x minus 8. Okay, now we have to find our slope here, that 2, and not only leave it as 2, but find the perpendicular slope. Remember, perpendicular means to flip and negate. Now 2 is technically 2 over 1. So when I flip it, it becomes 1 over 2. When I negate it, it becomes negative 1 over 2. So we're using x1, y1, we're using negative 1 over 2, and we're plugging into that crazy long formula. Y minus y1, y1, remember, is 5, equals our slope times x minus x1. And then we box it in. As long as there's no double negatives, you don't have to rewrite it. Well, we sort of don't have to rewrite it. My goodness. We do have to rewrite it into y equals mx plus b form. So again, you can see that I'm drawing my arrows to distribute. Y minus 5 equals negative 1/2 x. Now again, I want you to type in negative 1/2 times negative 3 in your calculator. If you forget how to type in fractions, remember it's just control divide brings up the fraction option. Control divide, and then type in negative 1/2 times negative 3, and you should end up with positive 3 over 2. Then we're going to add 5 to both sides. And this might freak you out a little bit because you're like, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do with with the 3/2 and the 5. So we still have negative 1/2 x. And then in your calculator, you're just going to type this part in. 3 over 2, and then plus 5. So again, control divide, 3 on top, 2 on the bottom. Move over, hit your plus sign, and hit 5. Then enter. So when we do that, we get plus 13 over 2. We're going to box it in. All right, last example here in your notes says that we're now going to use a graph. So for part A, it says write the equation of a line that passes through the point 2, 5, so this is our x1 and our y1, and is parallel. What do we think about when we see parallel? Same slope or opposite reciprocal? Write your answer right there on your paper. So we need the same slope to this given line. Now obviously the slope is not just written out for us. We don't have to find it from an equation, but we have to find it from a graph. So what I'm going to suggest that you do is you make 2 really nice points on your graph. Like I see a really nice point at 0, 2. And then I see the next really nice point at 2, 3. So then I have to think about slope. On a graph is what over what. Now back in probably like 6th grade, you guys talked about slope, where it's rise over run. So think about how much we're rising and how much we're running. We're rising 1 and we're running 2. So our slope, our m, is 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. And you can see that pattern repeating throughout this graph. So now that we have a slope and we have our x1, y1, we're going to plug into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we have y minus find your y1 value and put it there. Equals, find your slope and put it there. Times x minus your x1 value. Check your answer with mine up here on the board. Now we're not going to rewrite it in y equals mx plus b because it did not tell us to do so. We are okay leaving it just like this. Now in part B it says write the equation of a line that passes through the point 2, negative 2. So this is x1, y1, and is perpendicular. This time write yourself a note. Hopefully you're not writing same slope. Opposite reciprocal to the given line. Now our slope is still the same from the given line, m equals 1/2, but remember we need opposite reciprocal. So m perpendicular slope is equal to, flip that fraction upside down and negate it, negative 2 over 1, or just negative 2. So we have our slope, we have our point, and we're plugging in. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Remember that formula is something that you need to memorize. So you hear me saying it over and over and over. Well, you guys got to get in the habit of saying it over and over and over. Maybe talk to your parents about it tonight at dinner. Saying, hey guys, I learned about this formula. It's really cool. It's called point slope. You get to plug in a point, you get to plug in a slope. Yeah, right. Okay, so I have y minus my y1 value equals slope times x minus my x1 value. Now you might be staring at this and saying, oh shoot, we have a double negative. I'm glad that you've said it because we have to rewrite. We don't like double negatives, they're really ugly. So now instead of y minus minus 2, we have y plus 2 equals negative 2 times x minus 2. Lots of 2's. And here's our final answer for part B. Now you guys will either be moving on to classwork or homework at this point, depending on what time it is. Later, you will be taking a ticket out just like you do with me. On your ticket out, we're going to focus on just 2 problems, 1 and 2. I will put a blank slide up here so that you can remember that you're working on just 1 and 2 of your ticket out. If you choose to do 3, of course, I'll give you feedback. That feedback will not come until after the weekend, though. So again, I'll put up the blank slide so that you can see what questions to do on your ticket out. Remember that if you are completing your homework, that you do need to remember to bring it back tomorrow, next class, to be collected. Have fun with writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines.